All right, so the story starts about 20 years ago. I farmed on my parents' property, and then I actually bought properties along the Wasatch Front of Utah when property was still affordable. This picture here shows our farm in Ogden, and it shows some of the basic greenhouses about a decade ago. So 20 years ago, when I started doing greenhouses, it was all about getting high tunnels up because everybody wanted the earliest produce. Everybody was growing greens, and so everybody would have greens at the farmer's market, and you wanted to stick out. You wanted to have a catch crop. So the catch crops were tomatoes. So everybody was doing high tunnels and tomatoes and zucchini. And down the line, that got kind of boring. Everybody was doing the same thing. And so while we were picking this lemon spinach down here in this picture, and that's a perennial, it comes back every year, we got to thinking, why don't we do something like a milk house? Milk houses never freeze where the cows are. Why don't we incorporate a milk house with a greenhouse? And that's where the idea begun. So let's go to the next photo. And if you have any questions, please stop me in the middle of this so I can answer them. So the farm is just beautiful. We bought it and we're actually able to pay off all of these farms with that lemon spinach down below. So that's kind of the basis of everything. The lemon spinach is called French sorrel, and people buy it like crazy at the farmers markets. So what we wanted to do is make this kind of into a perennial permaculture food forest where everything comes back every year. And so you can see the peach trees, you can see the rhubarb, you can see the lemon spinach. But we wanted to try something else. We wanted to do citrus. So we could have something at the farmers markets besides greens to start the season. So instead of coming to me to get the lemon spinach, they could come to me and get citrus as a catch crop, and then we could sell all of our cash crops like the lemon spinach, salad mixes, and other things. So 20 years ago, we started with these Harbor Freight tool greenhouses. And once we built these, we were really unimpressed. It was about 120 degrees during the day, and at night, just a couple degrees warmer than the outside temperature. It was really bothering me. So we'd grow tomatoes and things, but they wouldn't do very well. So we had heaters put in these greenhouses. And the heaters cost a lot of money. They were electric heaters. And in order to even heat these things, you have to have them wired up to 220. And so it was about $180 a month to heat 3 of these Harbor Freight tool greenhouses at 43 degrees so I could grow tomatoes over the winter. So I'm like, this really is silly. I'm spending all this money and I'm not getting much out of it. So here's the start of what we were doing. You see the bottom of the picture, we started lining up leaves around the greenhouse. This is the south side of the greenhouse, so we just line a little bit of mulch up around the south side. And then the east and west sides will mulch that up a lot higher, and the north side will go clear up to the roof. So that's kind of where we started all of this. And so originally these were just high tunnels, and we now have 20 of these built. When Stefano did this awesome video that you watched, we had about 13, 14 of them. Now we're up to 20. And so originally we would just plant crops inside of here. You can see in the picture, we have some tomato plants at the bottom. We'd mix peppers, but we started to get experimental. We put pomegranate trees in. You see the little tags. And then there's a citrus tree. I didn't even know if this citrus tree would survive or not, but we put these coolers full of water around the citrus tree with the idea that we could actually do this as just an experiment, see if this would work out. At the same time we did these greenhouses, we started bringing in a lot of wood chips. We wanted a permaculture food forest that we did not have to keep planting year after year, that came back and fed us with the lowest amount of work possible. So I'm now a wood chip drop-off spot, and people would bring these wood chips, and I'd hire a tractor guy to push these around, and you can see how many wood chips I have. This is a lot. And so he was starting to incorporate this all around the farm. You can see the beginnings of the lemon spinach. So with the greenhouses, we started with regular high tunnels, and then we started bringing in barrels. The barrels we got at the local thrift store and also on online classifieds. But we found out that a lot of the people selling them on the online classifieds were just getting them at car washes. So the funny thing about this is we'd fill all these barrels up with water and soap would come out of them like crazy. So they were getting these barrels for free, and then they were selling them to us. And so I kind of got the idea maybe I should hit the car wash. Now you can see in the picture, the citrus are really small. The pomegranates are huge. This became a problem down the line as figs and pomegranates were outgrowing the citrus. Eventually, we had to cut the pomegranates and figs down and get rid of them out of here because they totally overwhelmed the citrus. I wasn't sure if we could even do citrus, so I tried the pomegranates and figs knowing we could probably do that, but the citrus, they were a lot easier than I thought. And then this is one of the other greenhouses we did, and you can see on the walls we have the straw mounted up on the side. So we began with mulch around the greenhouses. 10 years ago, we started with straw. We had a lot of straw that we put around. We bought it online, and it was pretty cheap back then. It was about $3 or $4 a bell for straw. This greenhouse has the humongous 4x4 foot bells. And we were lucky when we bought these that the guy actually took his loader out back and he put them around the greenhouses for us. Now you can see that the plastic is touching the PVC pipe, and that was one of the biggest mistakes we made because the plastic and the PVC have a chemical reaction where the plastic degrades. The PVC actually degrades the plastic and breaks into it. So if I were doing this again, I would paint the PVC, or I would not even use PVC. I'd do 2x4s or something else. So the beginnings of this greenhouse, you can see some citrus trees, but I wasn't sure citrus trees would even survive. So you can see arugula, broccoli, lettuce, and then you can see donut peaches. So we wanted to try donut peaches. And then we wanted a big jump on things. So we bought this huge tree in Las Vegas, and it already had fruit on it. It's about $90. This little tree wanted to come home with me, and we put the barrels right up around the tree, hoping that it would survive. And then we got the straw, and this is the north wall. So we put lots of straw up around these Harbor Freight Tool greenhouses, as you can see. The dynamic of all this process where the compost heats the greenhouse is as soon as we cover this up with our greenhouse plastic, and we buy used greenhouse plastic, because we can get it for next to nothing. We get this from nurseries. They take it off every 5 years because of insurance policies. It's still in perfect condition. We'll drape this around on top of this straw. And as the straw breaks down, it's going to start heating this greenhouse. Now, instead of using straw these days, I'm using bags of leaves because I can get all the bags of leaves I want delivered for free. I just had a load today come in. 20 bags, it's in my van, and it's going to go towards one of our new greenhouses. We're going to take the bags of leaves, mulch them around the greenhouses, and cover them with plastic. It works so amazing. You don't have to go underground. If we had to go underground here and do like a wall of peony, we would end up underwater. There's water, the water table is really high here. The other big problem with going underground in geothermal is I'm taking all the really good soil on the top and I'm digging it out and using it as my walls. And then I'm going underground and planting in soil that isn't as good. I've honestly never seen a wall of peony or a geothermal greenhouse that's wowed me. I've never seen anything that's had huge trees in it like we're doing. There's a lot of cool things that I've found as we did this. So as time went on, you can see the pomegranate trees. This is kind of a beginning picture. We put the pomegranate trees in, they're outgrowing the citrus trees. We put the lemon spinach in, and in order to grow citrus, I thought you had to have tons of water. So every one of these coolers, barrels, everything you see is water. And then what we've done this year is we layered down some black plastic over these walls, and I call it the black plastic wall of water. And you can't believe how much extra heat that brings in with the black plastic draped over. A lot easier than painting these black. So as we put the straw around the greenhouses, originally I covered the straw with black plastic. But I got to thinking, why don't I not do that? And I just cover the whole thing up with greenhouse plastic and then let the compost heat it. The barrels will keep it moderated. So the water masses heat up during the day. They throw that heat out at night. And then during the day, they keep it cooler inside the greenhouse. At the same time, this compost is going to break down underneath all the plastic I throw over the top of the whole structure. And as that's breaking down, that's going to heat the greenhouse as well. This is a decades-long project. I've never had any thermal combustions or fires. People ask that all the time. We have a really cool video. I've documented this on YouTube. It was 106 degrees, and the mulch around our greenhouses was still cool. So as time went on, you can see the citrus. So we cut out the pomegranates and the figs. They were taking over the whole entire greenhouse. They got so big you couldn't even see the citrus trees. And I figured they're pretty easy. Why not put the pomegranates and figs in a greenhouse that doesn't have all this bells and whistles and things going on like these barrels? So the citrus is really starting to grow. In the front, we have pomelo grapefruit. On the side, over on this side, we have Tangelo, which is a grapefruit orange cross. In the middle, we have blood oranges, and then we have donut peaches. So the donut peaches come on, they bear in early June. So when people are selling their greens at the farmers markets, we have donut peaches. And so whose booth do you think they're going to come stop at? At the same time, the citrus ripen up here in Utah in April and May. And so I can have citrus for the April and May farmers markets and donut peaches for June. Right now we have strawberries in our greenhouses. And so our goal is to try to have strawberries all winter. We grow the really big Albion and Seascape strawberries, and they're humongous. So that was a greenhouse in Ogden. This one is in Syracuse, Utah. And you can see that while we're waiting for the citrus trees to grow and the donut peach trees, we're planting this in tons and tons of vegetables. You can see the lemon spinach, the rainbow Swiss chard. You can see the citrus trees, cucumbers on the side, and you can see the straw. As that straw is breaking down, it's now all covered with plastic. And it's beautiful compost now where you see that straw at the very bottom side over here, and that's throwing heat out. This is a picture of one of our food forests. And as you can see, as we put the compost around the greenhouses, we get thousands of red wiggler worms. Every handful I grab underneath the mulch, and I'll go over this a lot more as we progress through this, but we get thousands of red wiggler worms for free. And you notice that the trees in the back of the picture are growing out of the greenhouse. So we're getting a lot of growth outside the greenhouse that we have to prune back. We're getting 3 to 4 feet of growth out of our fig trees inside and our peach trees and citrus. So during the winter, we get a lot of snow here in Utah. It gets really cold. Utah is like a refrigerator between November and February. Rarely does it get above 40 degrees in December, January, and early February. We get a lot of haze, inversions, fog. It's like a refrigerator. The only thing is we don't get crazy cold like Montana gets, like way below zero, but we stay really cold, just not way below zero. Deep inside the snow here, everything still does fine. Snow is a great insulator. And this is probably the coldest looking snowstorm I've seen. This is really dry snow, and it's probably in the teens outside. During the decades that we've been doing the greenhouses and the citrus trees, it has been below zero quite a few times. So the system is working really well. So with the straw that we put around the Harbor Freight Tool greenhouses, we cover that with the black plastic. But once again, I thought, why not just cover all that with clear plastic? So we actually took all of this and covered it with clear plastic. Looks like a mad scientist retreat. It's crazy. So when we covered it with the clear plastic over the black plastic, you can see the 4x4 bells of straw. They're breaking down. They're heating the greenhouse. A lot of wind protection. So it gives the illusion of going underground, yet we're not going underground, and we're keeping the best soil at the top where it belongs. And as these bells of straw breaking down, we're getting thousands of red wiggler worms that are composting the soil. So the tree roots that are inside the greenhouses are for sure sneaking out of this greenhouse into that really nice soil that red wiggler worms are working on. So it's like a permaculture greenhouse. So as time goes on, the trees and everything just grow crazy. And you're going to see some huge yields. And then you're going to see some mistakes I made. And then this last year, you're going to see that I've repented of these mistakes. And I'm back to my gold standard. Because I listened to somebody that thought he knew more than, he thought he was the expert. But he wasn't. And so right now we're in the boom period. We're getting lots of citrus and tons of donut peaches. Take a look at the size of those trees. This picture was probably taken about 6 or 7 years ago. So we do farm tours on the off season. We do the farmers markets during the summer. We do about 6 or 7 farmers markets a week. In the off season, we let people come out and tour this and see this for themselves. So this is a paintbrush spectacular where people are pollinating my donut peach trees with paintbrushes. So people ask all the time, how do you pollinate these things? We use paintbrushes, and we live next door to a beekeeper at one of the farms. We open the windows up and the bees come in. They love the greenhouse. They pollinate the fruit. At the other farms, we do a lot of paintbrush. The trees themselves are fairly self-pollinating, so we don't have to totally do this a lot, but we do this to guarantee a good fruit yield. These are some greenhouse donut peaches. These go to the farmer's market, and you see the little cups. When we produce peaches for the farmers markets in June, we get $8 a pound. We have also found a variety of peaches that actually bears earlier than my greenhouse donut peaches. And right now we're planting the whole entire farm in Ogden in that variety. It's top secret. That's the one thing I'm not going to share here. $8 a pound. So the idea is I could do the farmers markets for a month from June to July, have all these $8 a pound peaches, make $100,000, and then go on vacation. Here's some pictures of the donut peaches inside the greenhouses. And we pick, we have some videos on this. We picked $3,500 worth of donut peaches out of just 2 greenhouses this year. So we fully supplied the farmers markets with donut peaches. In the back, you can see the citrus. If you haven't had a donut peach before, they're white flesh. They have a pit the size of a dime. And you knock that pit out of the middle of the peach, and then it gets a little hollow spot in the middle, and it's like a donut. They're white flesh, they're unbelievably sweet. So here's kind of an old picture of the greenhouse when we put the plastic over it and we covered up the straw. And so now everything is covered, everything is heating it, and we're getting those great results you just saw. But we're missing something. This picture was taken about 7 or 8 years ago. We need better ventilation. We have 2 doors. If these trees are going to be really happy, we need ventilation. So originally, I'm not a builder or anything, but now I have a stepson that is a builder, and the greenhouses are absolutely beautiful. We refurbish every single one of them. They're just great to see inside and out now. But before all of this, when I didn't have any builders, I was thinking, how am I going to do this? I don't even think you can build a window on a PVC hoop house. So I would cover this with shade cloth, and that worked pretty well, but the trees weren't as happy as it would be later with the windows. Here is our citrus at the farmer's market. This is really crazy because when we do the farmer's markets, people get really confused. They see the citrus and they're thinking that I'm full of baloney and they want to throw me out of the farmer's market. So I get turned in all the time at the farmer's market by the other vendors that want to throw me out. They don't believe this kind of stuff that's going on. Yet they're too lazy to come and take a tour. But this is at the farmer's market, and this is a May farmer's market. So while everybody else selling catnip and horseradish and rhubarb, we're selling citrus. And these are fun to sample, and people just love them. This is my lovely wife holding some pomelo grapefruit and citrus that we harvested last year. Like I said at the beginning of the video, we have 20 times more fruit this year than last year. This picture was taken several years ago, and there's some citrus harvested for the farmer's markets. You can see some mandarin oranges, and it looks like she's got like a tangelo in her hand, humongous pomelo grapefruit. I've noticed that in Utah, some of the trees are really happy and some of the trees are not. The navel oranges produce really fast, along with the pomelo grapefruit. The blood oranges, they have taken a decade to produce. They produced a little bit a couple of years ago, and this winter they produced a ton. The trees are loaded, but it's the first time they've ever produced. We have a red skinned orange, and then we also have lots of blood oranges. There's some others. I'm trying to think what else. Tangelos, kumquats, and one other that's on my mind. I can't quite think of the name of it. Here's my lovely stepdaughter harvesting citrus for the farmer's markets. As you can see on the other side of the screen, there's some green donut peaches. So you can see that the citrus are available and ready way before the peaches are. Now, as we look at the tree, we see some white blooms. So the goal is we want a succession crop. We want ripe citrus, green citrus, blooming citrus, flowers, and if you've never smelled citrus flowers, they smell like heaven. She should have a big smile on her face in this picture because it is smelling really good, and that's why the bees come in here and pollinate all this. They love it. So right now our trees are green, blushing, ripe fruit, and it's all successions of different harvesting. So we don't have to wait the year from bloom to fruit. We have fruit in all different stages. Here's our beautiful donut peaches that we take to the farmer's market. These are all out of the greenhouse. And once again, we take these to the market. We just get done with our citrus. We're bringing donut peaches. The other farmers don't know what to think. They want to throw us out of the farmers markets. They think we're full of baloney. The market manager thinks we're full of baloney. I was driving to a farmer's market in Liberty Park in Salt Lake City, and a farmer's market manager named Allison, I hope you're watching, Allison. She wanted me to pull over the side of the road, go back to my greenhouse, and hold a sign up that said that date of the farmer's market, that date, which was August 18th, 2018, and have it on a poster board. Or no, it was June, because these things come on in June. It was June 18th. I think it's 2018. Hold that up, and so everybody could see the date and know that this was all legit. So I did that, and she apologized later, but years later, I quit that farmer's market. That was insane to get bullied and harassed like that on things that I'm doing in my greenhouse when these market managers won't even come out and see it. There's my lovely stepdaughter with the oranges, and you can see all the big crop of oranges below and the blooms up above. So we're having a succession crop of fruit that's ready and then fruit that's going to be ready. And now we have the green fruit mixed in with all that as well. Here's my other lovely stepdaughter holding Utah-grown grapefruit. So these are pretty nice. You can see the blooms and the ripe grapefruit. This is a spring pitcher, so it takes a year from bloom to ripe fruit. So the idea is you want to have lots of successions of crops, so you're always picking these things. So about 2018, 2019, we had a huge crop of citrus. And the reason why the crop was huge is I was watering it with sprinklers. Sprinklers that went up about 3 or 4 feet high. Later, my handyman that would work on this greenhouse, he thought sprinklers were crazy, and he wanted me to do this all with drip. And drip was a disaster. So take a look at this harvest, and this is what we want to get, and this is what we have right now, a harvest like this, where you're bringing bushels of fruit to the farmer's market. So you can see all the grapefruits below and the mandarin oranges up above. So I was doing it the way I thought was best with a sprinkler here. The year after, I would do it his way with the drip, and the results were a lot different. So here's one of our neighboring farmers at the farmer's market. Actually, will come out and take the time and look at this, and this guy was blown away. This was last year, and you can see that the fruit set's okay, but it's nothing like the other picture you just saw. And sadly, this is when Stefano came out, and this is when ABC4 came out, and Fox Weather came out. It was last year. And the fruit set sucked. Wasn't very good. And the reason why it wasn't good is I listened to this handyman expert that said use drip, that sprinklers were not the way. And the drip did not give the trees as much water as they needed. So this year I repented and I threw out all the drip stuff, just got rid of it all, and we used sprinklers. Now we are back to the picture you saw, this picture. This is what it looks like now using sprinklers. This is what drip does. And this looks like a pretty nice picture, but it's nothing like the other picture. So here's our farmer's market booth. This is at Wheeler Farm, and we sell a lot of produce. You can see cherries down there, strawberries, peas, potatoes. But you're not seeing a lot of citrus because they didn't get the production last year. Now this year, this whole booth's going to be full of citrus. Here's a picture from the summer. This is our booth at the farmer's market in Ogden, Utah, which I believe is one of the biggest farmer's markets in the West I've ever seen. We'll sell all of this out within about 4 hours. It's easy. These people come here and they're hungry. See plums, elephant heart plums, strawberries, new potatoes, peaches, and the prices you get are amazing as well. People in Utah really appreciate this stuff. So here's an early look at our greenhouses, pretty much the time they were just built, and I started putting the straw around them. And greenhouses look really nice when you just build them. The reason why I listened to this handyman guy and I did drip irrigation is he was the guy that was repairing these greenhouses. And greenhouses are a real bugger when you have to repair them all the time. So about the time Stefano come out, ABC4 come out, and the national TV came out, the greenhouses were not up to par with what they should be. So this year, we've taken the whole entire year to refurbish them and fix them up. Now that we've gotten rid of the handyman that told me to use the drip irrigation, and we used my stepson. Now the greenhouses look great, like this picture. So they were starting to get a little bit run down like this picture shows, but inside they're absolutely amazing, beautiful. The trees are big. The greenhouses start falling apart. We put the compost around the greenhouses, and this summer we take the compost you see in the picture, we level it out below the windows about 2 feet, level all around the greenhouse. And so we have not only this compost, but we have this original straw that's under the plastic as well. And so it's kind of like a hamburger effect. We're continuing to add more to our hamburger each time we add plastic. Now there's another problem with this. Doing this for 10 to 20 years, each time we add another layer of plastic, we are cutting down the sunlight by 9%. So this past week, in total finishing the greenhouses and refurbishing them, I have gone inside and I've removed about 3 or 4 layers of plastic from the inside to get the sunlight coming in a lot better now. These greenhouses are beautiful. Now that plastic is the way it should be, and the trees are really happy. Now, what we'll notice in this mulch that we have on the sides of the greenhouse is we're getting tons of red wiggler worms. I can dig in there, and there's about 20 or 30 red wiggler worms per handful of straw. In the middle of summer, when everybody thinks this is going to thermally combust, that straw is still cool in Utah, and it works like a mulch. I'm mulching my greenhouses like you mulch your plants in the garden in the summer, and your mulch never thermally combusts in the garden. Here's another greenhouse before we refurbished it. This greenhouse is a powerhouse now. We've taken all of this mulch and we've thrown another layer of plastic over the top of it. We've screwed wood into the pieces of steel that are inside this. I went inside this greenhouse today with the new refurbishments. The tomato plants are still alive. Strawberries are alive. The peach trees still have their leaves on them. They're green. It is amazing. I think this could be my warmest greenhouse now. And we can try to do mangoes and other things that take a little bit warmer temperatures. This thing is a powerhouse compost heated greenhouse now with the new refurbishment of the plastic over it. This greenhouse as well, we've covered this with plastic, and this is another powerhouse. We also now have a full-size avocado tree in one of these greenhouses. This is our original Harbor Freight tool greenhouse. So as the straw is breaking down into the plastic that we put in a decade ago, we're putting up new straw, grass clippings, leaves, anything I can get for free, building a door, and this is really holding in the heat. But to really heat it, we got to cover it with plastic. Same thing with this. We're building mountains around our greenhouses. This heats the greenhouses, holds in the heat that's there, but it really becomes a powerhouse once we cover all of this with plastic. We will bring down these mountains about 2 or 3 feet so we're not cutting out the light. Not only that, but we're growing this really cool dwarf cherry tomato inside the greenhouses. So we have kind of a 3-tiered approach. We have shelves that have pots that have strawberries, and these are yellow tiny tin tomatoes. They're a dwarf, and the production on these things is amazing. We can put these in pots, and these are still alive in our greenhouses. 7 of our greenhouses are up to par with having tomatoes alive, 7 out of 20. The other 13 we're working on with more compost, and we're going to actually cover 2 of the new ones up with plastic tomorrow so we can actually have tomato growth in the middle of December here in Utah without heaters, and hopefully year-round as well. These things are insanely productive. Tiny Tim, and this is a yellow version, they grow about 1 by 1 foot. They're about that big, and you lift the plants up, and they're just like tons of tomatoes. So not only that, but we're getting interest at the winter farmers markets. This is a winter farmers market in Ogden, Utah. And while we're selling our produce, we're getting people coming up, signing up on our farm tours. We're getting local media coming around, doing stories on us. And so not only are we selling citrus at the farmer's market, we're getting into agritourism where people want to see this. It's like a museum piece. 15-foot citrus trees in Utah. I don't know anybody that has trees that big anywhere in the Intermountain West. Maybe somebody does, but I think we have some pretty big trees and people want to see it. They come and buy produce. They come to our farm tours. So underneath all of this mulch, red wiggler worms. And so this is in the greenhouse. I'm pulling the plastic up. I'm digging down with my hands. And let's take a look and see what we can find. Take a look at that soil. That's some beautiful soil. The soil in Syracuse, Utah is not very good. It's on the bay of the Great Salt Lake. It's not very deep topsoil. It's kind of a gray, silty, sandy soil. And so we're actually doing some sort of permaculture greenhouse thing. I'd like to come up with a good phrase for that. Here is one handful down in that soil, and look at all of the worms. I've never even seen red wiggler worms on the property before, just regular earthworms. These are red wigglers, and people pay money for these. And then on the edges of the greenhouse, we could also grow mushrooms. We could grow pumpkin, squash. It's like a hugelculture kind of thing going on. This is a farm tour group from just a month ago, and I'm showing them all of these red wiggler worms, and they're like, wow, this is cool. Everybody but the guy in the back, he's kind of bored a little bit, but everybody else is like, wow, this is neat. It's always a cool, fun time inside the greenhouses. This is a Kodak moment of some people on the farm tours, and you notice everybody is smiling. They just love to see the citrus. A lot of Californians are moving here to Utah. They love to see this, love to smell it, and love to see it. So the farm tours, we take them in. None of the pictures I'm showing you do any justice or videos or anything. This in person looks way better than anything. And people like their pictures taken at the door. This was last year. We had some grapefruit sticking out the door that were really nice. This year we have a ton of grapefruit sticking out the door, so many that I can hardly get in the greenhouse without knocking them off. And then if you watched our video with Stefano, we had this cute little dog. He lived to be 20. He was a big part of the farm. He passed away right after Stefano's video. So we got to put him in this little piece. The kitty cat is a feral kitty cat. She's about 16 years old. And Utah has a really cool program that you bring in feral kitty cats. They'll come pick them up, they'll fix them, and then they'll re-release them on the property. Everybody asks, do we have mice problems? We do not have mice problems. The kitty cats take care of the mice, and we save a life at the same time. These feral kitty cats, like this cat you see here, become tame. And well, you kind of got to let them in the house. Now, we grow inside a home as well. We have an extra house that we own that we've turned into an indoor farm. And there is our doggy Jigs that was part of Stefano's video right before he passed away. And he would come to the farmer's market. He was 20 years old. So inside of our house, we've had a lot of good luck growing strawberries. This is the Albion and Seascape, and you can look at the size of it growing inside of our house. In my opinion, no greenhouse is going to come close to what you can grow inside your house, because your house has that nice furnace air blowing through. Pretty much you're heating your house, so why not grow some plants in it and get two things going, a happy home and crops growing. So a couple of years ago, we had a humongous crop of strawberries in our house, and they were nice and big. We took these to the winter farmer's market. Just a huge crop of strawberries, and then we put green onions mixed in. That would take, the aphids don't like the green onions. They don't like dill either. So we would mix some of that as well. So we grow a lot of things in our house. This winter, we're growing those tomatoes that you saw earlier, those yellow tiny Tims instead of strawberries, and seeing how they do. So to begin what we are doing, we get an online kit from Amazon or eBay. They're just a couple $100. They're about 10 feet by 30 feet. 2x4s are really cheap now. So we put in some 2x4s and really get this thing built so the wind isn't going to blow it apart. The snow isn't going to push it in. And then we put some windows in it. That's the beginning of our Hobbit Hole compost heated greenhouses. This one, the kit didn't come quite right. It was too short, and so we kind of had to build Noah's Ark inside of it, but we did, and we raised it up. It was only like 4 feet tall. And so instead of bumping my head, we kind of made some little supports and built it up. We put these nice little windows in, and this is the north wall. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put bags of leaves around that north wall. I'm going to put them clear up to the window. I'm going to try to use light bags of leaves. I don't want that frame to push in too much. In the old days, we would use straw. Straw is too heavy. That would push that frame and break it. So now I'm more into lightweight free mulch. I don't want to pay money for straw. I can get all the free leaves I want, and I never have to worry about leaves thermally combusting. So that north wall is going to be leaves. And then what I'm going to do is take another layer of plastic and have 3 layers of plastic over this device. And then as those leaves break down, which are still in the black bags, they're going to give off a lot of heat to this structure. So that greenhouse you saw where we built the mountains around it, and it was kind of getting ugly, we totally refurbished it. Now it's beautiful. These windows, we refurbished them as well. And this is the citrus trees last summer growing out of the greenhouse. Everything you see coming out of the greenhouse is new growth. That shows that the red wiggler worms, the compost around the sides of the greenhouses, and the soil are making this really a powerhouse growing unit where the trees and plants are happy, growing, and love it. They're at the ground level where the soil's great, not going below ground where there's water and problems, and this is a lot cheaper to do. Citrus are loving it. And this is the middle of summer. It's probably, our summer was insanely hot. We were over 100 degrees. For the whole month of July, almost every day was over 100 degrees. And everything here is looking good, thriving. The wood chips you see in that pile are never that hot. Everything just worked really good. Here's another little greenhouse that was all broken apart when Stefano came out. Now we fixed it up. It's made out of canopies. And we have citrus trees inside of it. We have grass clippings up around the north wall. And then we refurbished that one and the one behind it with new plastic, fixed the window, growing out, real happy. Everything just real happy this year. A lot of hard work though, a lot of hard work. Here is what our citrus looked like a month ago, and now they're turning color, but you can see as this guy is entering in the greenhouse, the citrus, tons of green citrus. This is in Ogden, Utah, and big, all the trees since the video was done have grown a couple feet, 2 to 3 feet. This greenhouse was almost just totally obliterated by the wind. This farm in Ogden gets canyon winds up to 75 miles an hour, and it just destroys the greenhouses. So my stepson, as you see in the picture, and he will come out to your place if you're local in Utah, and he'll help you build your greenhouse. He's really affordable. I had a handyman give me a quote of $5,000 for a 30 by 10 greenhouse, and he did mine for less than $2,000. So this one was obliterated. He fixed this up, put some doors on it, just real nice. This little greenhouse here has a citrus tree inside of it. And then we have a new little experiment. It's called the $100 Hobbit greenhouse. And this is basically, I'm digging into a wood chip pile on the south side, going in about 3 feet in, using recycled gallon jugs of water and putting a door over that with some tomato cages, giving a little bit of structure and elbow room for the citrus trees to grow. This morning it was 20 degrees outside, and I opened up this Hobbit hole greenhouse, and it did not freeze, and the water was still liquid. There was no frost. Here's a picture of my farm tour a month ago looking at the Hobbit hole greenhouse, and they look like they're pretty impressed. Lots of smiles on the farm tours. And then this is the Hobbit hole greenhouse, pretty much completed. And all we do is we open the door. This is built into a wood chip pile, so anybody, anywhere, any size yard, all you need is a wood chip pile, a shovel, some 2x4, some plastic, $100, and you got your $100 Hobbit greenhouse. And this thing works. I opened up this morning, no frost. There's one of our other big greenhouses, redone with some new plastic on it. We got some new wood chips around it. And it's a powerhouse. The tomato plants are live inside, 20 times more citrus. Citrus, so many citrus, you go in there and you're bumping into citrus every step. We took the Harbor Freight tool greenhouses. We threw plastic over the top of that. You saw all the mulch that was around it. Now the mulch is under cover. And I'm sure those red wiggler worms are liking it there a lot better than on the side of the hill uncovered where it's frozen and they can't move. Now they are protected. And this thing is a thermal mass. I went in there today. Everything is just doing great. Before we put the extra sheet of plastic on, because this thing has been here for 20 years, there was about 6 layers of plastic. You take 6 times 9, that's 54% of the light that's removed. We don't want that. So on the south side, we took out about 4 layers of plastic, or 3 or 4 layers. So we had just whatever I said before, but so we had 3 layers at the end. And now this thing gets a lot of sun and holds the heat in really, really well. On our new greenhouses, we found these little totes, water totes, even cheaper than we found the water barrels. There's a little Amish fellow here in Utah or something, and he had these in his pickup truck, the farmer's market, and he said, I need to get rid of these. $5 a piece, takes them all, and I'll deliver them. So he delivered about 35 of them. And we fill these up with water inside the greenhouse, and that is the thermal mass. Now our Ogden farm is loaded with greenhouses. If you watched the funnels video, this was all open wood chip land deluxe. Now it has greenhouses. Each of these greenhouses that you see, the bigger ones right by my stepson's truck, they in labor, not labor, but just in materials were under $1,000. I had to pay him to do it, but if you were just doing it yourself, these were $900 a piece. They were $250 kits on eBay or Amazon, your choice. The 2x4s were about $400. The plastic was, I got a whole row, 100 feet by 25 feet for $50, used plastic. So if you add all that together, we're looking around $900 to do this. If you look at the north wall, I'm starting to throw mulch around it, leaves, grass clippings. But I had a lady on the tour say, why take it out of the bag? Why don't you just leave it in the bag and just put bags of leaves as they are? And so that's what we're doing now. We're just leaving the bags of leaves in the bags, mulching the walls. And then tomorrow, we're going to take these 2 greenhouses by the pickup truck, and we're going to throw another sheet of plastic over all of this. So now it's going to be a real powerhouse. It's going to have the water barrels. It's going to have the mulch around the side. The mulch is going to be covered with plastic. As that mulch breaks down, you see the little windows. I can open up the windows and let the heat come in. It's a real slow, passive heat you can feel when you go in the greenhouse. You can feel there's something going on, some chaos energy that's actually heating these things. So here's a look at what we originally did around our hoop house. And this was quite expensive. It was about $1,200 for all this straw. Another problem with straw is it's too heavy. And time would go by, we'd have to build an A-frame, redwood A-frame structure in this greenhouse to hold it together because the straw real slowly starts bending those PVC pipes. And then the PVC pipes also degrade the plastic, and so you can see the problems we have and why greenhouses fall apart. All right, that is the end. That's the end. I guess that's the last picture I have. So if anybody has this huge audience we have out in TV land has any questions, I'd love to answer any questions. How about this lady out here? You have any questions? Her name's Diana.
Hello there. Yes, I just think going back to, let's talk about the wood chip really. I had a feeling that there's some types of wood chip that are not good. I mean, obviously you're using it outside and you're using it inside. So are there some types of wood that are not good for your plants?
So let's talk about, first of all, let's talk about the wood that is good. And the area we're in, the soil is really alkaline. We're on the Bay of the Great Salt Lake.
Okay.
We want to lower the pH to make the peach trees grow. Stefano's video shows peach trees. In some of our worst soil, they're like 15 feet tall peach trees. And so we like pine wood because pine wood is acidic and it brings the pH down. As far as wood that isn't good, the problem we have with that is if I get too particular with the wood chip companies or the grass clipping companies, which I have before, and I've said, well, I don't really want grass clippings if they've been sprayed. All of a sudden, your grass clipping delivery and your wood chip delivery ends. So I just hope for the best, cross my fingers, and so far everything's worked fine. The fact that we have all those red wiggler worms, I think we're doing something right.
Absolutely.
So to answer your question, I don't think there's a wood chip that's bad.
Yeah, I just think because I know things like laurel in composting is not a good idea.
Okay.
And so I was just thinking if like there was a lot of laurel wood that might be aggressive to whatever you're planting. But that's really helpful. And let me think of another question. It's about the ventilation. I'm surprised you're not getting condensation and like mold, especially when it's so densely packed, because you've got the sort of moisture there, haven't you? So it must be critical where you put the windows to vent it out.
Even before we had the windows, we never had a lot of condensation in the greenhouses.
Really?
I don't know what the deal is. We're in a really dry climate, but we have other greenhouses that have a lot of
Okay.
condensation. I think the plastic we're getting from the greenhouses is a condensation-proof plastic. They put lime on the lime powder on the greenhouse plastic, and they say that really helps the condensation.
Okay.
But we don't have, you can walk in these greenhouses, there isn't a drop of water that falls on your head unless you go way up and start removing sheets of plastic. I got a little bit of water on my head.
Okay.
Now, the
So,
kits that we buy, the Amazon eBay kits, they have a different kind of plastic.
right.
And, but these are new greenhouses that we haven't gotten up to par with these older ones. They have condensation inside of them. I'm wondering if all this compost chaos energy or something going on is taking in that moisture so there's not condensation. Or it's
Okay.
keeping the greenhouse warmer, because condensation happens when you have a real cold area and a real hot area that come together.
So
So I'm
you've
thinking the
got more,
moderation of the
yeah.
temperature might, yes,
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So there's a gradual sort of dissipation of the
yes.
temperature throughout. Oh, that makes sense. But for someone like me who's in a really damp maritime climate, I'm guessing that putting a window where we saw the tree going out the top is not going to be a good idea because all the rain.
You might need a solar power fan, but people are starting to build these things. I'm not hearing any complaints and problems that people are having.
Well,
I,
that's good.
I think this is going to work. I would keep an eye on the mulch, make sure it doesn't get too hot or anything. But 20 years, I've never had any fires or anything like that. My
Okay.
trick with that is I let all of the mulch sit for a while. I let the wood chips sit and the grass clippings and everything sit and let all that steam come out of it before I use it around the greenhouse. But
Okay. Okay.
leaves we can get for free now. Leaves, no
Absolutely.
thermal combustion with leaves. Leaves are great.
Mm.
The way I
So,
know that leaves heat really well is I load my van up with 20 bags of leaves right now, and I can go in my van tomorrow morning when it's 20 degrees outside, and my van's going to feel pretty warm in. When I step in, it's going to feel good.
brilliant. So, adding on to that, then you decided that you were going to use the sprinklers as well. So you would think
Yeah.
that would add a lot of moisture into the air as well. But it's really going down into that mulch, isn't it? That's what you were saying. It needs more water to get down to the roots.
So we don't water the greenhouses at all from about the
Okay.
24th of October until middle of April. No water at all. I'm
What?
only watering when it's really hot. I'll water once a week, and these are low sprinklers. They're not ones up on the roof or anything. These are low to the ground sprinklers. But the
Okay.
trees, we're not getting the leaves wet. We're just
Oh,
watering the trees up about 3 feet high.
okay.
I
Okay.
still use drips with my strawberry pots and the tomato pots up on the shelves. But the trees, there's no more drip, because when we use the drip, like you saw, real
Yeah.
disappointing harvest. We're used to bushels of citrus, not just,
Yeah. So you
half.
want the water getting right down into the root, not just sitting on the surface.
You have to be a good steward with these trees. These trees
Yeah.
are fussy. If you screw up, you only get one
Yeah.
chance. They bloom one time in Utah. They bloom in March and
Mm.
April. If you screw up, they don't bloom. If you don't give them enough light, they don't bloom. If they're happy, they bloom, and they bloom like crazy. And you got
Okay.
to make sure they're pollinated, real happy. Make sure the bees come in from the neighbor's beekeeper. If they're
Okay.
happy, they're going to produce really well. If you screw up, they're not going to bloom the next year. And then you got to wait another year.
Okay.
They only
So,
grow one time too, and they grow when they bloom, and that is it. Game over. It's like playing a video game. You fall
oh
off
my
the cliff,
gosh.
Mario's done.
And there's no button to press to get it back up again, like you
There's
get
no
another
cheat.
life.
There's no cheat.
So could you just clarify when is the paintbrush effect happening? When does that happen? When you get
About
everyone going around?
later April, early May. The blooms are on for about a month.
Right.
I did a video of this. I had some kidney stones last spring, and I went
Okay.
out and I pollinated the trees and did a video right before I went in for kidney stone operation. And that was about April the 17th.
Okay.
So I remember that because of the kidney stones, but I did that right before the operation. It was just great on the mind to smell those blooms, and just happy thoughts before an operation. That's where I wanted to be.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for all that information. I'll see if I can think of another question, unless anyone else has got one. Have you got one, Stefano?
No, I was just gonna say thank you, Chad. That was very comprehensive. I mean, you gave us.
Let's hear another question from this fine lady. Keep going.
Oh my
And I don't
gosh.
have to reply to all those comments with the same thing over and over again. Mice, thermal combustion, and what else? Let's see. The greenhouse is ugly. When are you going to fix it? There you go. We've done it all, folks.
Yeah, I know. It's great. It's great. Do you actually, I mean, we do crop rotation, don't we, with all our vegetables? How does that work? Because you're growing the same thing in the same area, but you're just piling loads of mulch on.
So here's the deal. I did this. I've been doing farmers markets for about 30 years. And I think Stefano's a market gardener as well. And every year you clear out the garden, you erase the blackboard, you till it all in. It's so depressing to look at a tilled in farm and think, I got to do this again and again. And you've done this for 30 years, 30 times over, plant over and over and over and over. You got to have, for me, my opinion, you got to have 70% of your plants perennials. And then it's a lot easier to do that. 30%
Okay.
annuals.
Chad, what do you get for your spinach? Your French sorrel lemon spinach?
Honestly, the best place to get that, the large leaf sorrel.
Not to get it, what do you get? Like, what do you fetch at the market? What do you sell it for?
We sell in a little quart-sized Ziploc bag, $5 or 3 for 10. And we can usually bring 1 or 2 huge coolers like the ones you see at Costco. We can sell it out at the really good markets like Ogden and Salt Lake. And then the smaller markets, we can bring maybe half that much and sell it out. In order to sell it, you got to sample it. If you don't sample it, no one's going to know what the heck it even is. They're not going to believe you. Every time someone samples it, their eyes go pop. They go pop every single time. I go, watch this. And kids love it. A lot of the customers are kids. They'll try it and say, I want this, mommy, and mommy will buy it.
I love it.
That is a cash crop. That paid for the farms. The lemon spinach bought the farms, no debt.
Wow.
In order to get it to do that, you got to have the catch crops, the things like the citrus in May, the donut peaches in June. And then you can get with the rest of the farmers and have tomatoes and other things at the same time they do.
Okay.
Perfect, Chad.
I'm digging my grave right here. I'm giving away all my secrets. I better have a good plan or I'm going to be out of business.
I hope. I hope you do.
Crazy. What am I doing?
I think it will be a while before I catch you up.
I must be doing this for a good reason. Otherwise, I'd be kicking myself in the. And anyway, any other questions?
I'm done.
You're done? Okay.
Appreciate it, Chad. I got to get running here. But thank you so much. And we'll put this up on the group to share. And we'll get a lot of comments. And Chad is in the group himself in the Perma-Resilience chat, the Perma-Resilience community on school. So I'm sure people will have questions there and you can answer. So thank you so much, Chad, everyone.